Hadn't been that way.
Right, everyone, we're going to start here in a moment. All right. Welcome, everyone. I'd like to call the Missouri Western State University Board of Governors meeting to order. Appreciate having a full house here today. The input and the interest that all of you have in the university and the governance here. So it's nice to see a full house here today. Before we get into the business part of our meeting, a couple of things I'd like to take up, I think are very appropriate for us to be aware of. As a governing board, our focus is naturally on the future of Missouri Western State University, but there are events that cause us to reflect on the past. One such recent event is the passing of Dr. Marvin M.O. Looney, who served as the first president of Missouri Western State University from 1967 to 1983. There are few figures, if any, more vital than Dr. Looney to the development of Missouri Western State University. When he arrived in St. Joseph, a four-year regional university was little more than a pipe dream. He gave that dream shape and substance, inspiring faculty, staff, students, and the community to build Mo West into the vibrant university it remains today. A naval veteran of World War II, Dr. Looney was named president of what was then Missouri Western Junior College in 1967, 2 years before the college became a four-year institution and moved to its current campus. Dr. Looney's time in St. Joseph were eventful years, including the establishment and accreditation of a four-year institution, the construction of buildings that continue to serve as the heart of the Mo West campus today, including the M.O. Looney Fieldhouse that bears his name, and the growth and success of intercollegiate athletics, including the introduction of women's sports in 1975. Dr. Looney was an outstanding leader who helped build Missouri Western State University into a recognized regional public university. He and his wife, Dorsey, and sons, Doug, Bill, and Chris, were a vital part of campus life. Dr. Looney died on September 29th in Mountain Home, Arkansas, at the age of 97 years old. In honor of Dr. Looney's memory, would you please join me in a moment of silence as we reflect on his life and legacy? Thank you, everyone. Next item I'd like to take up before we get into our business is we're happy to have here today and Wyatt Fletcher, who is the district director for Senator Tony Luetkemeier's office. And I would invite Wyatt to the podium, make a few remarks.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Wyatt Fletcher. I'm the district director for Senator Tony Luetkemeier's office. I have to share real quick before I get into this. I was just talking with Dr. Kennedy a few minutes ago before the meeting started, and she asked me why I was here today. And I said, well, I'm just happy to be in the neighborhood. Turns out it was a little bit more than just being in the neighborhood, Dr. Kennedy. I am very proud to be here on behalf of Senator Luetkemeyer to present a resolution to none other than Dr. Kennedy herself for recently receiving the Beacon Award from the St. Joseph School District Foundation. Now I have the resolution here with me, and if you don't mind, I would love to read a few lines from it, if that's okay. Whereas the members of the Missouri Senate welcome the opportunity to recognize incredible Missourians, especially those who are devoted to the success of their communities, and whereas the members now pause to recognize Dr. Kennedy, an esteemed resident of St. Joseph, who has been honored by the St. Joseph School District Foundation with the Beacon Award for Outstanding Community Partner during a special ceremony on September 19th. And whereas the Beacon Award honors a community partner who lights the way for students and educators. And whereas the St. Joseph School District Foundation Awards are designed to spotlight the people and partners who turn support into student success and inspire community engagement. And whereas the president of Missouri Western State University, Dr. Kennedy's leadership has helped the university, at the leadership at the university helped St. Joseph School District Foundation and students see and embark on a clear path from the high school classroom to local colleges and careers. And whereas Missouri Western State University and the St. Joseph School District recently announced a partnership to offer direct admission to the university for high school graduates, the first partnership of its kind in the state of Missouri. And whereas Dr. Kennedy was honored to be one of the first recipients of the St. Joseph School District Foundation Community Awards. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the members of the Missouri Senate 103rd General Assembly join to congratulate Dr. Kennedy on the illustrious occasion of being awarded the Beacon Award for Outstanding Community Partner. Dr. Kennedy, I would love to have you up here to present this.
You surprised me. I am totally surprised
Wonderful.
about this. So thank you
Wonderful.
very much. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
What a wonderful honor for me and for the university. This is a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, Wyatt. Appreciate that. Well-deserved, Dr. Kennedy, and for the positive light that you shine on our university and our community. Wished all I could do was these fun announcements to start with. But now we'll move to the business portion of our meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the Board of Governors meeting agenda as presented in your board book?
So moved.
I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Do I have a motion to approve the August 28, 2025 board meeting minutes as presented? For a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Motion carries. We will now hear the Personnel, Finance, and Operations Committee report. Vice President Daniel Holt, we welcome you to the podium.
Well, good afternoon, governors. Before we jump into my summary of this morning's Finance Committee meeting, I want to welcome, again, you've heard from our representatives at Fort Vista, Missouri regarding our fiscal year 2025 audited financial statements and process. And so I would like to first turn it over to Bobby Kelly and Michael Flaxbeard to discuss their highlights of our audit.
Good afternoon, governors. Thank you for having us. To recap, we went over the full audit results with the Finance Committee before lunch. So again, we're here to just go over and confirm the clean or unmodified audit opinion that the university had for its June 30th, 2025 financial statements, which is good news. That's the type of audit opinion that the university strives for. No significant findings as a result of our audit. So again, very good audit results. Good communication from management, good cooperation from management. So overall, very, very positive audit results. We are not planning on going over our presentation again that we did before lunch. If there's any questions, we'd be happy to address them here though.
Any questions? You're very thorough this morning.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you all.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you very much. And while the presentation is coming back up, just want to kind of give an extra thanks to, I don't know if any of our account, Letha is here, Letha Nold, and our accounting team, and Haley Lindsay and the financial aid team. They had the heaviest lifts during our audit process. As we talked about this morning, they start with the financial aid and the compliance sections in July, and then they come back in September and work on the audited financial statements and start working on that field work. And so it is a 3-month long process. So kudos to their teams for the very hard work and many hours they put into getting us to that spot with our fiscal year 2025 statements. So thank you very much. So to kind of go over what we've discussed this morning, we spent a lot of time going through the audit, a fiscal year 26 financial update that I'll give here in just a moment, and then a few various personnel initiatives I'll just speak on very highly as a recap, as well as some operational updates and strategic planning efforts that are ongoing as well. And so to jump into our finances for fiscal year 26, these numbers are as of September 30th, even though we're in November. The materials are presented before October close. And so everything you see here is as of September 30 of this fiscal year. Tuition fees of $16,102,695 is at 51.8% of our budget amount. And as I've shared with the committee and the board before, 52% is always the target number that we hope to achieve due to attrition that happens in the spring semester. And so we feel pretty confident with where we're at that we can hit our budgeted tuition amounts for this fiscal year. The way that it breaks down on a fund level is our education in general undesignated tuition fees is at 51.6%. So a little bit lower, but our designated funds are at 55.8, and that's what helps lift us up to the 51.8% threshold. So again, not quite to 52, but we're feeling very confident in it right now. Tuition is up nearly 2% or $293,000 year over year. And this is the second consecutive year where through one quarter, our tuition and fees revenue is up $300,000 compared to the year prior. So again, we're making progress, just not as quickly as what we might want. The adjustments that you see in the column are due to funds provided to the university for specific expenses. The federal funds are NSF funds. State allocations are ARPA and MOEXCEL's programs that we weren't sure if they were that were in last fiscal year that have transitioned over into this fiscal year, as well as the social work program that we weren't confident the funds were going to be renewed in the governor in the state's budget, but were at fiscal year. And so those funds have been added back into this year's budget and we expended at the end of this fiscal year. The two items that do stand out on the slide here are our housing and food service revenues from the auxiliary enterprise at 41.8%, 38.7% respectively. That's about $650,000 that we'll be chasing this fiscal year compared to what we had budgeted through back in April. The decline in housing and food is mostly attributed. We have about 137 fewer students in beds this fall than what we did last fall, and 175 fewer than we did in fall of 2023. And so that occupancy decline is what's triggered the reduction in revenues there. Students that live on campus are required to have a housing, a meal plan. And so we, when they don't live on campus, we're not going to receive the same housing or meal plan revenue as well for a food service perspective. And so right now our beds are only at about 48% occupied for the semester. Auxiliary revenue decline, addition to that, we have looked at why those are trailing behind. The two leading factors in our research is that one, we've done a good job in recruiting our service area. Our housing policy is it's a 50-mile radius from campus. You don't have to live on campus. As we have improved in our recruitment in St. Joseph, Buchanan County, and the surrounding areas, those students just do not have to live on campus. They meet that waiver requirement. And the second item is the impact the athletic transfer portal has had on the university as we've relied more heavily on recruitment of transfer students who also don't have the same requirements. Those two factors have played into a decline in our total occupancy. Athletes still contribute to or make up 41% of our residents, so it's still a large chunk, but those are the significant drivers of that reduced revenue. We're implementing Barnes & Noble's First Day Complete program at the start of the spring semester. We're in communication with Barnes & Noble to have all of the communication and marketing developed, the back-end processes. And this will allow for our students to get their books at $24 per credit hour, which will hopefully save them money. And so it will allow for them to have a much more streamlined process. It's an opt-out. So if they opt out of it, they can go to Amazon or wherever they might want to get their books. But if they don't, based off their course enrollment, their books will be ready for them at the start of the semester. That's all they have to do. They don't have anything more to do. So it's a very easy process for them. And we're glad to start that in January. Total operating revenues at $21,071,551 or 46.1% to budget. At this time last year, we were at 43% to budget. So we've made improvements year over year in terms of achieving our revenue targets compared to the budget amounts that we established in April. Overall revenue is up 1.4% year to year through the first quarter. And that growth but the downside of that is that our growth is much slower than it is on the expense side. And so jumping to expenses, our expenses are up about 3.8% year over year. This is driven mostly from our people, as we've talked before. Our salary, compensation, and fringe benefits for employees make up a significant portion of our overall budget each year. And then the second variable is our supplies and services. And so we have a significant amount of escalators on service contracts, on resources that we purchase, on technology and other areas in terms of providing services to students year over year. And so we are seeing significant drivers in terms of expenses as well and supplies and services. Again, supplies, our salaries are up nearly 5% and fringe is up 11% year to year. We anticipate that to continue to go up as the Moser's expense jumps in January to 32%. And so we'll be watching these numbers closely as we get into the second half of our fiscal year. Right now, our fringe rate is actually running at 45.1%. And so we had budgeted for 44%. Last year, we had budgeted 42% and was trending towards 44 for most of the year. So we felt pretty comfortable setting it at 44 for this year, but we're still seeing those numbers not be sufficient enough. But again, medical premiums and Moser's are the significant drivers to our fringe number. Utilities are up 6.8% now after a 6.8% increase last year at quarter one. Doesn't give us much concern. We were up last year at the same time, and I believe the year-end number was about $1,000 off of budget. And so we feel good about where we sit from a utilities perspective. We did just recently lock in gas prices for the winter to stabilize that, as gas prices are they're very volatile right now. Travel and insurance are where they should be at this time of year, so we're pleased to see that. We'd have been an adjustment of $96,000 as a result of the Kofi consortium that we have to get property insurance, received a reduced expense to our insurance providers in June that we were unaware of in April of this past year. Beyond that, the other adjustments that you see on the screen in the second column there are significantly more than 80% of it are due to restricted funds. So our program and designated funds, so programs that revenues that have come in are paying for a specific expense, and that's why we've added that to our budget for the year. Non-operating funds are really where they should be at this point in time. So there's nothing not too much to discuss at this spot. You can see our state appropriations are at 25%, which is where we should be at through quarter one. I will note that our grant revenues are down just slightly as we have slightly less federal Pell Grant recipients than we did this time last year. But it is a note that at the time of running these financials, we had more than $100,000 of Pell Grants that we had distributed to students but had not yet received that revenue. And so that number will have changed since then quite significantly. We will look at the end of the month for when October's numbers are final to see how that compares to last year. Investment income is down slightly as rates have lowered and our cash availability has declined. I'll back up one slide. I will point out that our debt service, both interest and the principal on it, as we look at our amortization schedule, our interest is declining, our principal is increasing. So that is a good thing, right? And so I do want to point out that those numbers are where they need to be. The majority of our debt or a significant chunk of our debt matures in 2031, and that's when we'll see the next big adjustment on it. At the end, all funds, we are in a $1.7 million income at this point in time through Q1. You will see that we've adjusted the budget at $457,000 negative. That's as a result of us taking out the state appropriations for capital projects. In April, we expected to receive 3% towards capital programs. That was taken out of the budget in June. And so we have pulled that out. We do have line of sight to a little more than half of that $457,000. They just were not adjusted and reflected in these financial statements. As of September 30, you can see our cash position here is declined year over year. It is at $6,280,172. It obviously jumps on a monthly basis pretty heavily, especially around the start of the semester when we receive larger amounts of federal funding from Pell Grants and student loans. But this number continues to decline on a yearly comparison. We are working on procedural changes to help improve our cash position in the future. And then on the personnel side, shifting away from finances, just a couple of updates here. The compensation committee is currently working on the update to the compensation plan that was done in 21-22. That committee's met twice and will meet again on Monday to start looking at Coupa HR data for comparisons for our staff positions. We're still collecting some information on our faculty positions. We'll be able to compare that and have a report for our board in February so that we can have any recommendations approved in the budget in April of 2026. USI started as our benefit broker in August. They helped us get a 2% medical premium increase for this year. If you recall, last year that was at a 13% annual jump. And so we were quite pleased to be able to see a much lower number going into this calendar year. And then we have currently 12 positions online when I last looked, posted at this time. And so we are really at the staffing levels that we're going to have. Some of those positions won't be filled until the spring. And even on the faculty, I think one of them is for the fall semester. Employee evaluations, they were due in October. This is our second year really of doing the evaluations the way that we are. Several years ago, we had CBIZ partner with us to create an evaluation form. We have some work that we have to do, mostly around training to help both supervisors and staff understand what it means to submit their evaluations with certain ratings. We want to reflect the very good work that we're doing on campus, but we also want to make sure that it is in response to the actual responsibilities and duties that employees have. So we have some training to do, but overall, the evaluation process has gone very well. Operationally, we have several projects still ongoing. So we've spoken a lot over the last year about the ARPA program, ARPA funds for the Hearns renovation of the library. We have moved to the third floor. We had a little bit of money left, so we've moved to the third floor to replace the ceiling tile. That work is starting now. The Potter Hall work also continues. So that's the Mo Excels project. We're working to get more audiovisual technology in the classrooms, do some ADA improvements and other work in Potter Hall to help continue to make that building better. The Blum Union boiler, the board had approved the purchase of a new boiler for this facility back in August. Found out today that is not going to be installed at fall break like we thought, and will be in winter break due to materials not going to be here in time. So our physical plant team will work to make sure that our boiler is operational through winter break, and then we'll replace it at that time. We have also issued a bid that just opened, RFP that the bid just opened for a new enterprise resource planning and student information system. Ellucian Banner's our current platform. It's too early. We just got those. I started looking at them yesterday. We'll convene our committee to review them. There were 4 respondents. It is what we thought it was going to be. It's an expensive enterprise to change ERPs. And so we'll go through this process. Again, our goal is to make sure that we've updated the board by February so that we can have a financing plan for it in the budget of fiscal year 2027. And lastly, and I won't go into it as much in depth as I did this morning, strategic planning, our division since last year has been conducting quite a bit of strategic planning for our finances, technology, people, and place. And so a lot of those will have connectivity to the strategic planning conversation that we'll have later this afternoon. So I'll withhold my comments on that until then. And then the last item, just as a reminder that this morning the committee had approved a motion to amend the LEA Law Enforcement Academy charges from a per credit hour rate to a flat program fee. And that will be included in the action items for the governors later this afternoon. And with that, I think I'll take any questions.
Daniel, I appreciate you providing us so much information as a fire hose there that you and your team do an excellent job with keeping us informed with that. But I guess a point of clarification, just when you're talking about the budget, changes in there and the capital project that was taken out of the budget, that was because the state had
Correct.
had approved that and then it was removed and not passed. That's nothing from here.
That's correct. Yeah. So I believe it was the Senate had recommended to the governor a 3% state appropriation that was then removed from the budget for capital.
I think it was the House
Was the House, not Senate? Oh, sorry.
for capital improvement of 1.5 to 4 and other amounts. The Senate came back and said, we're going to do 3%. They took that out and then it went to the governor. So just the usual jockeying that occurs when a recommendations.
But none of that came
Nope.
through.
No.
Correct.
That's
It
just
did
the
not.
part that it was
Yeah.
money that's why you did a budget adjustment on that. is
Correct.
That we believe there was going to be.
That was the conversation in April. It ended up not being the case in June. Yep.
Thank you for clarifying.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Thank you for
Hey,
your time.
thank you, Vice President Holmes. We'll see you in a bit. We have 3 recommendations coming from the Personnel, Finance, and Operations Committee. Do I have a motion to approve the fiscal year 2025 audit report as presented? I have a second.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? The motion carries. Next, we have, or do I have a motion to approve the September 30, 2025 financial report as presented? Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Finally, do I have a motion to approve an amendment for the 2025-2026 tuition and fees schedule for the Law Enforcement Academy from a per credit hour charge of $382 for in-state residents to a flat fee of $7,176 and the $416 per credit hour for out-of-state residents changed to a flat fee of $7,788 for the new January 2026 cohort as presented. For a second,
Second.
any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? The motion carries. We'll now hear division reports from the vice presidents and directors. First up is Academic Affairs, Dr. Jay Johnson.
Hello, everybody. First of all, I hope I don't fall asleep. I just had turkey. Okay. Well, I have just 3 things to share with you today. First, our commencement ceremony is December 13th at 11 a.m. We have 140, 150 graduates, somewhere in that neighborhood, walking this year. So we're very excited to have that. We have our speaker lined up and everything is, I think it'll be okay. I'm not sure. Anyway. Oh, I should? Okay. Our speaker is Lee Tiemann. So yeah, we believe he can do a good job.
15
Yes.
people said no.
15 people said no. Yeah. So anyway, but yes, thank you for agreeing to do this, but we
My
look,
pleasure.
yeah. But we look forward to having the day.
1 session or 2 sessions?
There's one commencement ceremony this year, 11 a.m. in Looney. Okay. The second thing is workforce development. Want to give a little bit of an update of what we're doing there. As you may recall, we brought Rebecca Labina on staff here on April 1st. Seemed like an ironic day, but still, we made it work. But Rebecca has been doing fantastic work. She is continuing to grow our presence in the region and getting a lot of communications with our partners going. Since April, we've generated somewhere in the neighborhood of $55,000 of revenue from her work, as well as a bunch of partnerships that we didn't have before. We also have had now 2 CNC classes, a leadership series, OSHA forklift training, a number of other things. Right now, she's working on a partnership with BI that's going to yield some pretty good revenue for us as well. And this could be an ongoing thing as well, as far as medical lab science, some other pieces with that. The last thing I'd like to talk a little bit about is SBDC. As you may recall, when Rebecca left, that left a void in the region for left Northwest Missouri State. That left a void in the region for SBDC. Well, we announced last week, very happy to announce again here that Missouri Western is going to have that grant. Starting in January of 2026, we will be the SBDC location for the Northwest region of the state. So that's going to be the 9 counties that were being served previously. We have a posting on our website for a person to help manage that. Rebecca brings over 20 years of experience with SBDC, as well as just general vast network of small business in the region. So this is a very good ad for Missouri Western. I'll take any questions.
In the board book, you have a note about a reduced credit bachelor's program.
Yes.
Explain that.
Yes, we are working on, well, there's one in the pipeline. There's one that I'm working on. Hope we'll have a meeting next Tuesday about. The one we're working on is we're looking at criminal justice. One thing to make very, very clear is not all bachelor's degrees are going to 90 hours. This is not a state mandate. There's not anything like that, but about a year or 2 ago, HLC put out guidance on how institutions can put forth degree programs that are reduced credit bachelor's programs, and that down to 90 hours. And so we are starting to see these pop up all over the country. They started kind of out west, they went east, and now they're in the Midwest. A friend of mine is a peer reviewer for HLC, and he's doing 3 separate programs, 3 separate degrees. As a peer reviewer, we have a CJ program that popped up for 90 hours at SEMO this year. So we are looking to get on there and get in that market. We are looking at how we can ensure that if somebody wants to continue and finish a 120-hour program, they can. So we've talked to state of Maine. We've talked to all sorts of people about this. So we're working on doing this the right way.
I think one of the interesting things about a 90 degree is it really is geared towards workforce. So that, areas like education, criminal justice, where it has kind of a direct pathway. But to Jay's point, it also is very closely watched and guided by HLC. So I know SEMO's program has a visit from HLC in early January. So we'll see. So it's not, at this point, I would say it is not, every university is going to be going to a 90 degree for every bachelor's degree. It seems to be kind of a select piece, but
Yes.
kudos to the provost and his office for jumping on something that's innovative, that will push our market demand, that will allow us to partner with agencies as well as current students looking for criminal justice. So this is progress.
Yeah, and we're being very, very careful with this. We want to make sure we're ensuring rigor. We're putting the right amount of stuff out there to ensure that people are getting what they need for careers that are in this field. So it's an exciting development, but it's also the Wild West. We'll see where it goes.
We were recently recognized.
Mhm.
Do have a maximum number of persons. Any efforts to increase our capacity?
I don't really have an answer for that. I don't think so. Yeah.
So, the one piece about nursing is for those programs to grow, the number one thing you need are clinical sites. And so if you think about our students in St. Joe, we don't have a children's hospital, right? We don't have a lot of facilities. So part of what we've been doing, at least from my perspective, is looking at Mosaic as they're building their system, right? So they've gone from Maryville, Albany. Now there is a joint operating partnership with North Kansas City, some other people. So we have to find those opportunities as well. That's why doing things like the simulation lab are so important, because we can provide more kind of hands-on experiences. We also operate our program on a cohort model. So we have 2 different times where we're taking in students. And I think the fact of doing other programs and partnerships like our nursing scholars of promise will help us grow the program as well. So it's same thing for physical therapy can be bound this way, respiratory therapy, other programs where there's capacity built in, even our masters of social. But we are looking at ways to try to, how do we expand that, find more places for our students to.
Any other questions I can't answer?
Thank you, Dr. Johnson.
Thank you.
Next up, we will hear about administration from Mr. Daniel Holt once again.
Once again, not done yet. Well, I want to kind of mix it up a little bit, not talk about the same things, but I do want to say that I have to give a mash out. I mentioned our accounting team earlier. We have a lot of people working really hard right now, and so I don't have enough kudos to go around the room. But I just want to make sure I give proper recognition to everybody that we're very, very pleased with the work being done. I also want to mention that we have a new assistant vice president for finance, Jana Whipple. You want to raise your hand real quick? She started in October, so she's going to be helping me with our finances and making sure that the university is on the right path forward. And so I'm glad that she's here as well. And so a couple of the areas that I want to kind of give a shout out that I don't know that I've ever spoken really about here with this group is that number one, I don't think Mike is here, but our risk management, we have director of risk management on campus, Mike Crutchfield. He is the chair of the health and safety committee. That is the institutional standing committee. They do everything from fire safety procedures to elevator inspections. So there's a lot of activities that that he is responsible for and helps coordinate that committee with. But he's the one that works with our insurance providers, make sure that our values are right. He's just the general counsel with contract reviews. I think the thing that we're working on the hardest probably is making sure that we educate our community to be proactive when it comes to risk activities. There are steps to take first before we act, and so he's doing a very good job of working on that. The university's had an emergency operations plan for many years, and he's been taking the time to update that as necessary. But the one that we recently started working on that actually will bleed into some of our conversation in the strategic planning is a catastrophic event and business continuity plan. And so the first part of that is the example I was using, because will hopefully never happen, is if a meteor hits campus, where do we go, right? What are the steps that we need to take to make sure that we can continue to operate, continue to deliver our academic programs? What was that? Where were we going? Did you say where we're going? Oh, well, yeah, that too. Yeah. And so part of this is, what do we do? The other part of it is making sure that our departments know what are the steps that need to take place in order for us to continue our operations without a hitch and make sure that we're serving our students. And so he's just now starting that work. The NC-SARE which is a reciprocity agreement that we have with other states to make sure that all of our disclosures are right, that students from other states can come to Missouri Western. Part of their new requirements in 2026 is that institutions have to do this process. So we are already recertified with them. It's not a mandatory thing for us right now, but it's certainly important enough that we need to get that ball going. And so he's starting that work. But the other part that he is doing, and the other area that I want to highlight, and he's here today, is institutional research. Dr. Jason Morrill, we'll hear from him later this afternoon regarding our strategic plan. I'm going to short you, Jason, but you've got everything from state and federal reporting to our enrollment dashboards and retention reports. But the thing that I kind of talked about a little bit this morning, he and Mike are partnering to develop our AI policies and procedures. What are those guardrails? What's that framework need to look like? As AI has long been discussed in the academic settings and how it's going to impact students' work and grading and all the different things that happen. Those conversations have been going for 5-6 years, probably maybe more. But it's really starting to now impact the administrative side of the things as new services that we're signing up for. AI is a part of it. So what does that mean? Where does FERPA requirements come in terms of what kind of data can it have, what can it not have. And so they are really tag teaming to get us just that framework established that we'll then kind of start to build upon. They're not going to be able to do it all by themselves, right? There's a lot that has to go into it. But we want to make sure that we're starting off on the right foot. And so just want to acknowledge the work that they're doing right now and how important it is to some of those strategic planning initiatives that I talked about this morning. On the student affairs side, I just want to kind of give some shout outs there as well. The activities that the university has had this semester have been fantastic. All the feedback that I've gotten from our students has been extremely positive. Everything's been very well attended. I've got a couple of members here. They can correct me if I say the wrong numbers, but we had a wellness event here in September, I think. We had over 300 students show up. Our health provider was not prepared. They said they've never had more than 75, so they had 80 flu shots. And so we had to respond. We had to do some things differently. But they are doing fantastic work. And that's our Center for Student Involvement, Career Development, Counseling, Res Life. Again, I'm going to forget somebody, of course, but there is a lot of activity taking place, and we feel very good that that's going to be reflective in our retention rates going into the spring semester and again for next fall. And so excited about all the things that we have going on there. And then the last thing I wanted to touch on is I've gotten a lot of questions about this here recently, is just what are the effects that the shutdown has had on the university. And so we already heard this morning about our audit, and that part of the guidance isn't out yet. But other than that, I mean, that's probably the most impactful thing operationally for us. Pell Grants and federal student loans, they're still dispersing as they should. The FAFSA, there were some hiccups early on for the current year FAFSA, but it's still coming in as it should. The FAFSA for next academic year came out in October, and it was on time. It's been a while since we've been able to say that. So it has gone okay. About the biggest impact probably from a financial aid perspective is just the lack of guidance. The one big beautiful bill has some changes to federal requirements and how financial aid got applied to students. And since that's passed, there hasn't really been any explanation as to how institutions should administer this. And so that's probably the biggest area. There's a lot of questions about it, and really we don't have any answers. And that's where financial aid administrators don't like to be. So that's probably the most impactful thing from the university on the financial aid side of things. But it is starting to affect our students. And so we've done a little bit of research. We have approximately 200 students who either they are qualified for SNAP benefits or their parents qualify for SNAP benefits. So it's not a lot when you think about our population, but it's enough to have an impact. And so we have a food drive coming up on the 17th of this month. We're trying to replenish our campus cupboard. And so there's a lot of initiatives taking place here over the next 2-3 weeks to make sure that we can support those students as they need it. And so our student affairs team is working with them. And as students start to have those hardships, we want to make sure that they know that they can reach out to student affairs and seek assistance from the university. And so with that, I will conclude my report and take any additional questions. Tired of me, huh? Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will hear about university advancement in the MWSU Foundation, Mr. Mark Archambault.
Good afternoon, governors. I just assumed I would hear the name Daniel Holt again, so I was taken by surprise. Governors have my report, so I'm just going to touch on 3 highlights to share with you. The first is a high-level overview of the first quarter fundraising results. We secured gifts totaling $961,525, of which $411,000 were in cash gifts. 40% of those gifts were for program funds, specifically to support math instruction, and others to support the franchise program. 30% was for scholarships. Moving forward, we have planned for fiscal year 26, another $3.25 million in solicitations to be delivered as of our plans of this date. Some of those might fall out and be replaced by others as we move through the process. On Monday, the Craig School of Business National Executive Advisory Council met, completing their first year since inaugurating the group. They engaged with Provost Jay Johnson, who shared an overview of key metrics from the school related to enrollment, graduation rates, and faculty composition and outputs. Later in the morning, they heard from Rebecca Lobina from Workforce Development, and finally, a report from the CSB chair. At the end of the day, they began to make plans for their annual gifts to the Craig School, which they each commit to, and to help the Division of Advancement identify and recruit additional members to that council. Among the lively and helpful discussions that took place during the morning were how to integrate AI into the business curriculum and plans to increase the supply chain curriculum's focus on applied skills that could in turn spur program growth. And the third thing I wanted to touch on today is some new information from what was in my report, and that is that yesterday the foundation board had its quarterly meeting and elected 7 new members to fill vacancies that had naturally occurred over the course of the year. The 7 new members are, in alphabetical order, Kent Bruner of Bruner Construction here in St. Joe, alumna Amanda Luziska, class of 2012, a real estate analytics professional in Dallas. Alumnus Mike Mastio, class of 95, manufacturing consultant from KC. Alumna Leslie McMillan, a class of 2000, an agribusiness banker at FBNO in Kansas City. Marshall Teveno, local St. Joe builder. Alumna Sherry Thompson, class of 1977, a communications consultant from Omaha. And alumna Casey Worth, chief administrator at United Fiber, class of 2011. Each of these individuals is all significantly engaged already in philanthropy to the university. They have each are possessed of extensive personal and professional networks. In particular, I'd like to call out 2 that I think are especially noteworthy in certain respects. One is that Amanda Luziska from Dallas has offered to help us create an on-location Dallas alumni network. It probably won't be of the same scale, obviously, as our Kansas City network, but it's our first opportunity to begin to grow what's a pretty substantial alumni donor population there. So she'll help us lead out on that. And Casey Worth, who joins us from United Fiber, is actually, if you will, graduating from the alumni board to the foundation board. And I think that's something we've been striving for, is to have that alumni board become a little more of a funnel. And as that organization continues to professionalize and continues to elevate its involvement in both volunteerism and philanthropy, I think we're going to see more of that. In fact, I think the next individual in that group, there's another individual likely to graduate, if you will, next year. Those are my highlights from the report. You have the rest of my report, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mark. Next up, we will hear from Enrollment Management and Marketing, Dr. Andy Otto.
Told you I'd have graphs and things now. So give me 6 months. So, well, thank you all. Pleasure to be up here and kind of show the good work that both the enrollment team and the marketing team have done over the past quarter. So as we look here, see, I've worked really hard on this for y'all to get some animation in. You can see the blue line is 2 years ago. The black line is last year. Where our applications right now are just in between. And so for me, that was my hope, was that we would land in between last year and year prior, because that's the growth that we need to see. When we look at applications, we're trending plus or minus 17%, depending on the time of day, because the way that tracking happens, I'll see that kind of drop at the beginning of the day and increase throughout. Biggest movement that we've seen, and it's really encouraging for us, is in the Kansas City, Missouri metro area. Applications are about 40% up last year compared to last year. What's encouraging about that for us and for Daniel and his staff is when we talk about those auxiliary revenues in housing and dining, a lot of the students that we're going to see out of this population are going to be just outside of that 50 miles, or it's going to be when you talk about from a parent's perspective in terms of safety of travel to and from the campus, they're going to live just far enough that our hope is that they're going to be here on our campus. So this is a really encouraging number for us. Northern Missouri is also seeing an increase with 30% increase in applicants and admits. So you're seeing that increase across the service region for us. Applications are up about 18% across the service region. So Admits and commits. Again, we started doing admits a little bit earlier than we did prior years. But as you can see, we're trending again right in between in terms of our admits year to year. Mirroring those trends, we're at about plus or minus 20% again. So increasing and getting those things processed a little bit quicker than we had in prior year. Kansas City Mo is trending at 45% year over year in terms of our admission, with the service region up 18%. So really encouraging numbers for us. When we talk about commits, as I've noted multiple times over, we didn't accept commits from students until February in prior years. And so we opened that up really the moment that the application opened up and we started admitting students, we opened that up and started churning with them. And so this says 241 as of 11/4. We're up to 253 today. So it is a continual drip of commits for us as we go through. And the really important thing for us is that we're communicating with these students throughout the year. It's not that they just said, hey, I want to come, and then come February saying, okay, register for classes now. We are having conversations with these students and being very relational and intentional with those conversations. March 2025, we had 291. So we're well on our way in terms of commits at this point. So discover more at Mo West. This is a big visit day for us. We had 90 attendees last year. We had about 75. And so we saw growth there. We talk about the 75, the mix of the 75. That's what's really important when we talk about the difference between last year's event and we talk about the difference in this year's event. Last year's event had students from 6th grade all the way up through their senior year. Okay. At last year's event, there were 19 seniors that attended the Discover More event. We had 81 seniors that attended this year. And so that population, in terms of like those that we could actually work with and recruit and see immediate impact on enrollment the upcoming year, 62 more than last year. So really encouraged about that. The other thing is we had students as far as Texas coming up to visit campus. They were from all over the state. You talk about Southeast, Southwest, St. Louis. They were coming from all over the state into Kansas, but we even had 2 to 3 from Texas as well. So it was really awesome to see. And you see these photos. We're really excited about our photographer that we have. Brandon's back there taking pictures today. He's done a really good job in his short time of capturing experiences here on our campus. And so really excited about how we're going to be able to convey student experience for events like this as well. So yes.
But like in the summer, I think you said that, I think the number was of the high school students taking credit.
Yeah.
22% that were enrolled.
That's for the early college.
And that's in early college. It's I think we were at 28% is what it is. So yeah.
But are you targeting those folks?
Absolutely. So we updated, yeah. So we had, we had an early college academy table, and I know that during the day we had, I worked with 4 to 5 students just myself to get applications from them that day that were part of that. So what we have implemented with the early college academy is it used to be like, register for the classes here, take the classes, and then you're done. We were churned and burned, if you will. They were getting their classes from us, and then they were, maybe moving on, or they were coming to us. We were just kind of letting it be. And so right now what we've done within our systems is those students are coming into our CRM, and we're working those students just like we would any other student in terms of creating some comm flows for them that it's not as hard of a sell as like, hey, come. But it is definitely there. Hey, we want you to apply here. You're already taking classes with us. It's very easy to just take those classes and keep on going. So yes.
It's about
Yeah, I was going to say 1,300.
So Jay's area where is much more intentionality.
Yep.
In terms of, like, we will never get 100% of those students, right?
Yeah.
But to get to a reasonable matriculation rate of 35% or something like that, And that's why having direct admit programs is helping immensely, those kinds of things. So it's part of the strategy.
Yeah, and we work with that program on a weekly basis. Whenever they have students come to class for labs or at the beginning of the year, they bring those groups of students that are taking those classes to campus to get their IDs and whatnot. We get in front of them as an admissions office, giving them tours and things like that so that they can see campus outside of maybe the 1 to 2 spaces that they really need during that visit. So, yeah. And then marketing, we are getting ready to roll out a marketing 101 class for faculty and staff, which will include things such as social media, creating of content, marketing materials, really to educate and create some processes and efficiencies across campus, what's allowed, what's not, so that we can control brand, control how we're putting ourselves out there. That's going to roll out in January. Our thought was to hold off until after the holidays, give people a chance to reset and not forget, what we put in front of them. Continued improvements to digital marketing efforts from August to September. That was when we really implemented those new keywords that we talked about, going from like 23 to 1,500. And with that, our impressions jumped up about 73%, 74%, and clicks increased by 5.2%. So now our next step is to really drive those conversions, not just clicks, but then tracking those students through different landing pages. And so we're continuing to work through that. And then lastly, we're working what has been deemed a website remodel, not a full out build. So we're going to take some pages and be very strategic about the ones that we go through and update. And so just so that you can see, this is the kind of template for what will be our new homepage. As we go through modern, it gets the information in front of students, very clickable, very usable via mobile. So, and with that is my presentation. Again, I got some images, got some graphs in front of you. Any questions about the information?
So you're a couple months into the rebrand of Mo West. Any feedback from students, faculty, and the community?
Yeah, I've only heard good things. When I've heard from community members, they're like, I'm glad you're leaning into it. Like everyone calls it that. Why, it just makes sense. I think as we go forward, I think students, as I would say, it's a edgier kind of cooler word, if you will, to say Mo West over Missouri Western State. And so yeah, I've only heard good things. Yes.
Giggling back there.
Yes.
But as testimony,
I
I think, too, what our students.
Yeah. So, but it's been really good to work with. I'll note a little bit later, it's newer than I am, here. And so it's still catching on, I think, as much as I am. So.
Let's encourage, I learned business school years ago before Franklin.
Mhm.
What gets measured gets done.
Mhm.
I'm really glad to see when you're presenting all this kind of stuff, actual numbers.
Mhm.
That's very helpful. I think it means we're stepping forward. I think it's really important. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I will tell you, I refresh my reports probably twice an hour to just kind of see. So, I keep an eye on them. So, yep.
Well, we're excited to go through chief.
Mm-hmm.
See if there are any opportunities. After you been through a chief's camp,
Yeah.
any ideas about how you can grow students, your chief training?
Yeah, I think what I would say is from a dollar standpoint, I think there's a lot of things that we've done just within our office that we're going to be able to save some dollars. Not that things aren't important, but we like things in admissions. Swag, if you will, is what it's called in our office space. And so, we have chapstick, we have clickers, we have all the things. And so we're going to be a little bit more strategic in terms of what we have, because you have 20 things, you're going to have a bunch of 8-year-olds that come up and want to take all the things. And so being strategic about what we're offering and how we're positioning things. I think it is something that during Chiefs camp, we want to have a presence, but we also have to have an understanding that it is the Chiefs. Like that is why people are there. And so making sure that when we're in front of them, we figure out a way to really engage them besides a game of Plinko, that gets them things. And so it's, yeah, go.
Well, I just want to fill in, I want to make sure because Andy's talking about our big tent where so many staff, and I can say I had my feet wet this
Yeah.
summer and did it for 2 hours
Yeah.
myself. Spend hours interacting with the public.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of generating student interest in your program, probably not that way, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure how many students, to your point, Andy, they're coming for the Chiefs. They're
Yeah.
not coming from Missouri Western. So we've got to think about that and what might be possible. But, you know, it's
Yeah, I mean,
even the Boy Scouts that come from Germany are just. coming for the
yeah,
Chiefs.
I mean, there are things that we can consider in terms of visit days and things like that, but we have to be really intentional about what that cost is going to be and what that ROI is going to be for something like that. Like, are we going to get prospective students that want to come? Or are we going to have students that are already coming and we're just spending money on students that are already going to set foot on this campus? And so, it's something that we kind of talk about in terms of our events. And, you know, when we talk about those community engagement events, how can we really leverage admissions over just being there? So, yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Otto.
Yep.
Next, we will hear about athletics from our athletic director, Mr. Andy Carter.
Good to be in front of you, governors. Good to see everybody. Just a few updates I'd like to provide. Women's soccer program went to Maryville yesterday and defeated the bad people up there. 1-0 to clinch fourth place in the conference. And then we'll be hosting those same people here on Sunday afternoon at 1 o'clock for a chance to advance into the conference tournament. We currently have a home winning streak or a home non-losing streak. If you say that in soccer, probably only a home non-losing streak of 20 matches, won 16 and tied 4. And I would anticipate that we'll keep that streak intact. Very confident in our young ladies. Currently ranked number 7 in the NCAA Central Region with a win over number 5. So as this thing starts to unfold, I think we're in pretty good place. We probably need at least one more win. So this win on Sunday would be a big one to clinch a regional berth into the NCAA Division II championships. Our volleyball program, with 4 matches left to play, are sitting in tie for first in the conference with both Washburn and Kearney. We play at Central Missouri and Missouri Southern Friday and Saturday this week. And then we finish up at Fort Hays and Kearney next Thursday and Friday. Currently ranked 20th in the country in the AVCA national poll, which is interesting because we're 5-0 against the top 10 in the same poll. But somehow there's a chasm there that we just aren't able to cross quite yet. The first central regional poll that will actually rank teams. So they put the regional rankings are a weird scenario. They don't want to start them too soon because there is a lot of volatility the sooner you start it. So the first poll they put out, they say, here are the 10 teams that are in, but they're in alphabetical order. So you got to kind of try to figure out where you fit. So the first one that actually ranks them will come out Tuesday. You know, should we win this weekend, we'll probably be a top 3 in the regional, having the strongest strength of schedule in the central region. I would be remiss if I didn't say this. We almost lost both of our head coaches, women's soccer, volleyball, after the amazing years they had last year. And I'm grateful to President Kennedy and Daniel for helping me kind of work through those scenarios to retain those coaches, because we're reaping the benefit of having that continuity and leadership. And they're only going to keep getting better. And they're just doing a fantastic job in what they're doing with those programs. Cross-country programs, men had a strong showing at the MIAA championships with Powell Valderrama placing 5th and Weimach Gilo finishing 10th, both earning first team all MIAA. And both our men and women will compete in the NCAA Central Region meet in Joplin on Saturday. Hopefully we could qualify somebody further to the national championships. In football, the last 2 weeks, we've been featured as part of the MIAA Game of the Week on 38th The Spot in the Kansas City market. We're 2-0 in those games, so if you know anybody has airtime available, I'm looking to buy some airtime this week for Saturday's game, if possible. But they're headed to Maryville on Saturday, so we'll be pulling for the Griffs to go up there and knock them off. Women's basketball opened their season at the Conference Commissioner Association Tip-Off Classic in the Civic Arena this past weekend. They lost to the defending national champion and preseason #1 Grand Valley State. Also lost to number 13 in the nation, Lubbock Christian University. What I would say from my perspective is that we saw a lot of really good stuff out of the team, but understanding, much as I'll say the same comment about our men's team, they're kind of portal teams where we've had to recruit a vast majority of transfers in for this year, and they're still melding together. But there's a lot of exciting things, a lot of good stuff we saw, and I think that they'll only continue to get better. The women will play in the Central Region Showcase on November 14th and 15th back at the Civic Center. So that's another opportunity to see them. Our men's basketball lost in the CCA tournament at the Civic to West Texas A&M, who was a ranked nationally team, but we turned around the next day or 2 days later and beat the University of Missouri St. Louis. Again, very exciting teams to watch. The style of play, the coaching is very good. I just see both of these teams continuing to get better. The men will host the Hilliard Classic on November 14th and 15th at our field house here on campus, where we'll have 6 teams, including ourselves, competing on Friday and Saturday. A couple of dates of note. On the 1st of December, men's and women's basketball will host Northwest here to open conference play. So that might be a good time. If you haven't seen those teams by then, that would be a good time to fill up the arena. And then December 15th and 16th, on the 15th, which is a Monday, our women's basketball will be hosting an Education Day game at 11 a.m. And then the following day, the men will do the same thing. We've had so much support since we did it last year from local businesses that want to help us get young people on our campus to watch these contests, that we're actually doing them back-to-back days. And take your Excedrin before you show up, because
I just have to jump in. If governors have the opportunity, or anyone in the gallery, it was a arena full of screaming children, and it was so cute because they were so young. They didn't really know how to boo at the bad calls or the bad, when the other team scores. So we had to train them just to applaud for us. But it's so great. And it was just such a wonderful community event. We heard so much buzz about it. So if you can go, you have to sit up high, and then it's not quite so loud. But it is a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'd say the interesting thing about that is that we have been school districts have reached out to us from as far as an hour and a half away, saying we want to be part of that. And we're like, well, we don't know if we can do for you what we do for some of these other school districts. So you don't have to do anything for us, just let us get there. And so our staff has been working very hard, led by Ryan Menley, to get the crowds filled up for those events. So that's my report. But if you have any questions, I'd be glad to address them.
I saw the TV football game last weekend, halftime, and Dr. Kennedy, she did a great job. It's fun to watch.
Ryan.
Yeah.
Great exposure in the right market.
Andy, maybe you could talk a little bit about the Special Olympics event.
Yeah, so they've actually done 2. They did a Special Olympics event, and then last night they did the Play Unified event, which it's kind of the same genre, but it's a different animal that started with Coach John Hood, who was here in our previous men's basketball staff. He had a passion for that. And I think last night they had 45 participants in that, and they had a great event. And if you get on any social media, you'll see the pictures and the videos of It just makes you just grateful for the things that we take for granted when some of these other people get an experience like that, and you can see the joy on their face just getting out on the basketball floor and thinking it's a big time. And our coaches have been fantastic. I think I reported at one point in the last year, we do over 4,000 hours of community service. And that's one of the things we do is we serve our community. And then the best part is when we can get them to be here to serve them, because then they get to experience what it's like to be on our campus, because we want our community to think of our campus as the place for their entertainment and the place where they can come and be part of what's going on.
I would jump on the bandwagon of your basketball teams that the wins will come, but right now it is an entertaining brand of basketball to watch. And that first quarter with Grand Valley, that was an elite quarter of basketball. That was ridiculously entertaining.
Yeah.
We needed the power to go off at the end of the first quarter when we had the lead.
I think the power did go off. All right. Thank you very much.
We will now hear from our student governor, Garrett Jackson.
Well, good afternoon. My report will still be fairly short. I'd just like to again say students are engaged on campus, and that's excellent to see all the events, and give kudos to student affairs and student engagement. I'd like again to riff off that the SGA and Student Affairs initiative for the Cram the Cupboard event, and this is something everybody can participate in, and I encourage us to. The cupboard is very important to the students at the universities. Whatever we can pull together to donate, that'll be greatly appreciated. That event starts, the general collections start on the 17th, but if we want to build a team to go put hand structures down in Blum lobby, we can do that next week. So that's something to watch your email for and encourage you to participate in. Again, I said this last time, but I encourage you as well, if you are able to participate in the Missouri Western Athletics Band. They're still looking for people to join. So bring your instrument. We're happy to have you join. Seriously.
He's really good. He's really good on the bass. I will say that.
But genuinely, that's also a really good experience for the community and for the students. So it's heard good reports from the athletics saying that. So that's an awesome way just to participate and contribute no matter who you are. Finally, the student governor position is taking applications. So if you know of a student, freshman, sophomore, somewhere in there, be a full-time student for the next 2 to 3 years, please encourage them to apply. And I've learned so much in this position. I'm really grateful for the opportunity to have done this. So good students could benefit from this. University needs someone who can speak for them well. Please, if you know anyone that can apply for it, please encourage them to.
Well, thank you, Garrett. This bittersweet moment. This is Garrett's last report with us. Been on this board for 2.5 years. I believe you're the 4th student governor that I have served with, and you have been all unique people and personalities doing that. But the absolute common thread that is more of a cord or a solid cable is just what outstanding people that you have been. And you personally have been a pleasure to work with. You have represented the student population very well. Proud to see your accomplishments. And Garrett was appointed to the board in April 2023 by former Governor Mike Parson. Garrett earned a bachelor's degree in construction engineering technology with a minor in general business in 2024 and graduated summa cum laude. Garrett will graduate next month with a master's degree in business administration. So we very much look forward to all the great things that you are going to be doing in the future as we take pride in your accomplishments. And we do have a small token of our appreciation for your service on our board. You have very big shoes to fill. We will now hear from our president, Dr. Elizabeth Kennedy.
Thank you, Kevin. Well, good afternoon, Chair Teeman, Vice Chair, Governors. Today, I am very happy to present to you for your approval Missouri Western State University's new 2026-2030 strategic plan, building a premier regional public university. So one of the things just before we get into it, building a premier regional public university, the absolute best thing about being a regional public university is our ability to transform lives. That is the best thing about that. Governors might be aware that Mike seems really hot, Kevin. Is it okay? Yeah, okay. Sorry. You might be aware that we received the recent recognition from U.S. World News and Report, the best colleges, that we are #1 in the state of Missouri for social mobility. And what does that mean? Social mobility, I think of it as our ability to transform lives. It is essentially the American dream, because the American dream says, if you are growing up, you get an education, you go to college, you will be able to then move on to a career, to have a better life, to have a better quality of life for your family, to improve your community, to add to the economic prosperity of your community and our region. Regional public universities are where access and affordability intersect. We heard today during our finance meeting from our auditors about the importance of affordability. That is part of who we are and what's going on at this university. And part of what we do is we are designed to play an integral role in the vitality of the region that we serve. That's what regional public universities do. That's why they were first established. So part of what we're going to talk about today is, what does that mean to be a premier regional public university, but also what are we going to do to get there? We're going to talk about how we will increase our role, what we will do to expand our current and develop new collaborations with our area leaders in our community to provide the in-demand skills for our students so they are launched career-ready day one into their fields. We will focus on both the undergraduate and the graduate populations. But the goal of this plan, as it says, is to build a premier regional public university. Now, before we get into the contents, I want to just do another thank you. There were 19 members of the Strategic Planning Committee. Their names are on the slide, but if we have any members here with us today, and we have a couple, would you please stand so that we could recognize your work? Through this, you'll see that these are members who come from all areas of campus, and they represent both faculty and staff. And I am very grateful for all their time and effort and energy and talent that they have put into developing this plan. So thank you. So just a quick reminder, the timeline, we've been working on this since last February. It seems like a long time ago, but it was about last February. We presented this draft to the board to review in August. We gave our faculty, our staff and our students the opportunity to review the document in October. And today we return to the board for final approval. Once the plan is approved, the process owners, whom you'll hear from in just a minute, will put together those teams. Their teams then will establish the benchmarks, set the goals for the subsequent years, begin measuring and adjusting and reporting progress, not only to the cabinet, but to the Board of Governors. So let's talk about what are we going to be working on. Our 4 priority areas. As has been shared with the governors, this plan outlines 4 priority areas to be the center of our work. There are 3 immediate priorities and 1 long range, more aspirational, if you will, priority goal. And the first priority is to enhance student-centered transformative experience. And by this, we mean focusing on students and their experience here at Mo West. This plan aims to attract more students to higher education, retain more students for degree completion, and continue to focus on our brand and image so that students and the region are increasingly glad to be here. The second priority is to invest in our people and places. This plan recognizes that to provide an exceptional and transformative student experience, we must create a culture of excellence by focusing resources to our people, processes, and places in order to achieve that goal. Priority 3 is to cultivate meaningful regional collaborations, because collaborations have been and will continue to be one of the keys to our successes, whether that be with business, industry, or secondary education, with our alumni and donors, even with our legislators. This plan calls for strengthening those partnerships and increasing the partnerships that we do have. And finally, the fourth priority, what we consider an aspirational focus, is to play a role in regional educational attainment. This is truly the long game. That's how I look at this priority, because it is so important. We know, for example, in Buchanan County, the main county in our 10-county service area, that for 48% of our residents, the highest level of educational attainment is a high school diploma or less. In fact, of that 48%, 10% do not even have a high school diploma. And we know that Buchanan County's high school dropout rate is now the second highest in any county in Missouri. Second highest, they're number 2 only by 0.01%. That's troubling. So we have work to do. It's important work. It's necessary work. So let's get to it. Let's talk about priority number 1, our students. For this piece, Andy Otto, who is the Vice President for Enrollment Management and Marketing, and Jay Johnson, our Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs, they are the process owners of this priority area. They will assemble the teams to assist in working on the opportunities associated with this priority, and they're going to walk us through this area and the key performance indicators they plan to measure so that we can achieve the goal of enhancing the student-centered transformational learning experience. Now, I do want to do just one thing before they come up and talk. I want to introduce formally to our board, Dr. Jason Morrell, Director of Institutional Research. Jason, you want to stand up for us? Jason was part of the planning committee, and his task is to create a dashboard listing each priority and the opportunities underlying them. And the dashboards in this presentation are simply the placeholders. Once approved by the board, this plan, we will have an interactive dashboard that'll be developed and accessible from a website. So at any time, you can see where we are in the progress that we're making. So Jason, I want everybody to see your face. It might be the last time they see you for a while. You have a lot of work to do. So thank you very much. And just a quick note too, Tiama Wagner, who is not here with us today, she will also be kind of helping this process and guiding some of the teams. So Andy, I'm going to call you on up to talk about the opportunity 1.
Okay. So as we look at our opportunities, opportunity 1 focuses really on recruitment, retention, degree completion, and empowering our students to succeed. And so as we talk about that, we obviously have to have metrics. What are we going to measure? And so we look out over here to the right. First and foremost, we have to establish some baselines. What does that look like for us in this upcoming year for 2026 to then measure year in and year out? Some of those measurements that we've identified are increases in first-time students, increases in students retained, degree completion, graduate students retained, and then an increase in the positive student experience. And so as we do that, I've been here a little over 6 months. And so these are things that we've already started, as you've seen in some of my reports. Some of these things we're doing it already. We've had improvements in communication flows that are segmented out by student types, but also where they're at in that funnel. As they go through the admissions process, we're working with academics to align our online graduate offerings to the market, what's out there, where are we going to position ourselves with the different programming. And then we've been able to do a lot of innovative things like our direct admit program which has allowed us to connect with students that may not have been able to or may have felt like they couldn't, but also allows us to connect with districts that maybe we haven't connected with as intentionally in the past. Like they are wanting to come to us to ask about those programs. As we look to achieve our goals, it's important to have a team that we feel can achieve those goals. And so when we look at our hiring, we've been very intentional about who we hire. We look at the background, the collegiate experiences that they had, that we want people that have had similar experiences that they can talk to what it is to be a student here on the Mo West campus. We want motivated and passionate individuals that have higher ed as, aspirational career opportunities for them. And as we talk about leadership roles, I would be remiss to not mention Chrissy Martin, our director of admissions. We need people like her that can support, coach up, and mentor those underneath to help us achieve our goals and be successful. We have identified target areas already. Obviously Buchanan County, but our service region, we are identifying counties within that service region where we see opportunity growth. We talked about the Kansas City Metro as being one of those, but also student segments, starting to differentiate those student segments in reporting as well, outside of just first time, first year, and transfer students. Now segmenting into those online students and where they fall within those populations, and then graduate students. As we do this, there's a lot that we're going to have to keep in mind, particularly as we look at markets in the online and graduate world. We talk about cyclical cycles within the enrollment the enrollment phase. And so for first year transfer students, it's very easy. We talk about a cycle where people think it starts, August and then it rolls to August. That's not the case anymore. We have to start thinking about sophomores, juniors, and really cultivating those students so that we can then really go at them their senior year and already have them, they know who we are. They have an affinity to us. On the flip side, as we look at the market of online and graduate, one of the things that we've talked about is how do we position ourselves, whether it's term structure, we're looking at 16-week classes right now in those segments. When we look at 7-week or 8-week classes as a potential, that cycle is very quick and very repetitive. And so how do we attack that market? How do we work that? And the reporting shifts significantly. And so now we have to find a balance in how we're working those students, but then also reporting it out to show those successes. When we talk about measurements, the baseline for year one for me is to stop the drop, if you will. It's as easy as that. We want to stop the decline of degree-seeking students. That's not to take away any of the great work that has happened with ECA or workforce development, but we want to see an increase in those degree-seeking students. And so, as a mentor once told me, you can't turn a cruise ship on a dime. It doesn't work that way. And so we've seen that turn start, but now what we have to do is we have to set ourselves up with these goals and these plans to see that 180. And I think the opportunity is there for us to see that 180-degree turn happen. But again, it doesn't happen on a dime, if you will. So as we move forward with the strategic plan, I think the things that we have to keep in mind is this is stuff that we've already been doing. Now we're going to bring it into one place, and it's going to be a lot of work that Jason's going to have as we try to pull in all of these data points from various different systems into one place. But what it's going to allow us to do and allow you all to do is track that and see the successes as they come along. So, okay, opportunity two, or
Yes.
okay.
Okay, so an opportunity two, basically we're looking at relevance and how it pertains to lifelong learning and developing our local economy with programming. And so we have the three measures there: increased degree completion, looking at how we are getting your graduates employed, and also how are we getting more recognized out there in the industry. So talk about some of the things that we're looking at with that. One of the things that I've charged all of the leaders in academic affairs with is tracking three simple metrics that also might lead into more metrics that they need to track. The three are total enrollment, graduation rates, and retention, first year retention. Because we get them past that first year, that's a big hump to get over, right? So those are the three things that I'll be tracking for them on a certain little form that we have. And then there's going to be other metrics that they identify, and we're going to keep reporting these things out. I've been kind of holding off on that until we get through this and get this approved and then we're going to get it launched. So once we get those things started, we're going to be able to build more ideas around what it is we can do to help those numbers. And so some things that are already going on. We are working with Kristen Neely on how we can elevate our career exploration opportunities here. So we're looking at how we start them off at the very beginning when they get here, and build those skills as they go through their programming here at Missouri Western until they graduate and they don't show up to, career fairs in pajamas, and they have good resumes and they're ready to go. We're also looking at, as Andy mentioned, our graduate programming, trying to figure out what are some things that we need to do to prepare people who are already out there that need to perhaps move up in their careers or have a change in careers or whatever. What kind of graduate programs are we looking at that might be able to be helpful for them, and address time to degree and expense? Okay, we've got to get them through a little bit quicker. We're also looking at more workforce development. We're building partnerships. I discussed Rebecca Levine a little bit ago. We have a lot more partnerships today than we did a year ago. So things are looking up there. And finally, also looking at some innovation in degrees. Garrett, you asked about the 90-hour degrees. This is part of it. We want to make sure that we're offering the right degrees. Not all will be 90. We also need to be looking at 120 and grad and all the other things there, but we need to have all things on the table. And the team, yes, we will be building the team around all of those ideas. Thank you. Opportunity.
I don't know if anyone caught it, but I caught it when I said it. I said cyclical cycle. So so as we talk about opportunity 3, it's enhancing the MoWest brand awareness and reputation to improve student, faculty, staff, and community experience. We have to obviously establish a baseline, and what we're looking to do is create an annual perception survey, and so seeing increases within that. I mentioned this earlier. The MoWest brand is newer to MoWest than I am at this point. But although it's new in that sense, who we are and who we been, how people have perceived us, it is not new, and it is foundational to how we're going to move forward when we talk about the brand. In my short time, I hope that you've seen MoWest. You've seen more of MoWest and the amazing stories that have happened across campus, from student successes to faculty, staff achievements, program and department happenings. That's been a goal of mine since I've been here. Our recent hire in Libby Waltemuth as Director of Strategic Communications has really ramped up those efforts. I like to say I'm a data guy. I like to look at the numbers, and she's the soft fuzzy. And so we counterbalance when we start to have conversations about what we need to do. But she has helped us, almost incessantly place ourselves in front of our stakeholders. How do we do that? So I've been really appreciative of her. As she might put it, we're going to kill them with kindness. That is a Libby saying, if I've ever heard it. But in all honesty, the thing that we want to do is we want to build up who we are to others through the great work that's happening here on this campus, and the great work that's happening from alumni as well, the people that have walked these halls. And so this is going to require content, stories and the like across all different mediums, whether it's video, written word, and then different platforms, whether it's the traditional media, but also social media. And so we have to tout our story, and we have the team to do so. So I'm really excited about the opportunity that we have there. We have to be very intentional with our internal and external brand management and the communication, how we influence that perception, drive recruitment, retention, and it helps shapes our reputation in the region and the community. As part of the strategic plan, as I mentioned, we'll work to develop an annual survey tool to monitor that. And so we can improve that messaging, understand the wants and desires of the region as it relates to MoWest, and respond accordingly. For too long, we've kind of hoped that we've had a good image in the region. Really right now, it's time to ensure that we do have that good image, and we maintain it. That's what we have to do at this point. With this key performance indicator, we'll have the data, both quantitative and qualitative, to make those appropriate and corresponding decisions as it relates to programming, as it relates to offerings that we have in other areas across campus. And so really excited about all three opportunities that we have here and what it's going to allow us to do as we move forward with the strategic plan. Questions?
No, good job. I like how priority number one is focused on student success, and it's a big task in front of you. So we're here to support you and let us know how we can help.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay.
Thank you, Andy and Jenny. And I kind of liken this one to, we've already been revving our engines a little bit, and now we're ready to take our foot off the brake and put the gas forward. So this is really exciting, and I appreciate your input. And I love the fact that it's data driven. I'm a numbers person too, so this is really good. So that's the focus on our students and how we can make a student-centered transformational learning experience. Let's then go to the next priority, which is to look at people, processes, and places. It's really interesting because the planning committee recognized very, very early on that to have priority one, you have to have priority two, right? There is no way we could achieve one without working on number two. And to do so, to get the student success, we really have to focus on quality faculty and support staff. So the idea is, as we're building this premier regional public university, we will focus on creating a culture that supports our students and supports each other, the folks who work here at the university. So this is to look at, this priority is to really look at, to review, to improve upon our internal processes and controls. The bottom line is we just simply have to get better at ensuring that we're documenting things, we're paying attention to the details, we're improving the quality of our product, we're improving communication, and ultimately improving overall performance. So for this, we will then turn to Daniel Holt, who will walk us through this section.
Yeah, so thank you, Dr. Kennedy. So again, as I mentioned this morning, I kind of got cheated and got a little bit of a head start on some of this work. So when I got here in 2023, my prior role was always around strategic planning, new initiatives, trying to, how do we get out in front of things? And so I knew I wanted to bring some of that in. Still didn't know what I didn't know, right? And so when we got, after getting a few months underneath me, Chief Information Officer Jeremy Hunter, Director of HR, Sarah Freemeyer, a couple others who are no longer here got together and we started to lay out that foundation that I shared a little bit with this morning regarding a financial plan, technology plan, and then people in place were the second part of that. And so it dovetailed nicely into that. We've also gotten a little bit of head start utilizing the work of the past compensation group, compensation committee, and the work that they had done, and then getting that ball moving forward already this semester. And so we've got some things already moving, which is going to make this process much easier to kind of get rolling, as Dr. Kennedy mentioned with the student side of it. But it's going to take academic affairs. It's going to take cabinet members, faculty, senate, staff association. There's going to be a lot of individuals involved in these elements of our strategic plan. And so opportunity one is our people. So cultivating a culture of excellence by investing in and supporting faculty and staff, including the implementation of a human capital plan and consistent professional development framework. Again, so we've already started this. People are, as I've said, people are nearly half of our budget. And so we've kind of gotten a head start on some of these things. We've got the Coupa HR data already in hand. It's giving us a lot of great metrics, not only from the compensation side, but as I mentioned earlier, it tells us how we're doing on employee attrition and retaining our employees on campus. It's helping. There are other platforms out there that you will have to figure out when we think about surveys, as Dr. Otto mentioned. There are other platforms like great colleges to work for that help us benchmark against some other institutions. And so not only can we capture what our employees think about this place and how what their work means on campus, we can kind of bump that up against what other institutions of higher education are saying about themselves as well. We expanded our library for vector solutions in HR. And so we have more developmental opportunities already in our catalog. And the nice part is they already had the built-in measurements to it. And so we want to make sure we could expand where we could at a relatively easy affordability and easy way to go about it. And so, there's several layers to how we build a culture of excellence. It's not just compensation. It's encouraging people to take their leave. How do we encourage employee wellness? I mentioned USI, our broker this morning. That is something that they see that we can do much more work on campus. And so it'll be a focus of ours in 26. And then again, how do we expand that employee evaluation process now that we've got a couple of years of baseline to go off of, to really start to build in that change management, that growth, aligning goals to the work that we're doing so that everybody feels they have that impact. It's much more motivating for an employee to be able to like, they're helping this university move forward. Not everybody can naturally make those connections, right? And so we'll have to help some folks get through it. But I think this is the framework is being developed already because we want to make sure that we've got quality faculty to deliver our education, provide service to our students. We want to make sure we have the support staff around them to help them thrive on campus and move forward towards graduation. Opportunity 2, processes, optimize and memorialize institutional processes to improve quality communication and overall performance. Dr. Johnson and I will lead this one together. Many of the same stakeholders are in this as well. I mentioned earlier today regarding our director of risk management working on the business continuity plan, right? And so working with our folks to understand our processes, institutional knowledge is probably not the most valuable thing on campus, but it's up there, right? And making sure that we understand what the institution has done, how we've gotten there, how we can move ourselves forward. The change comes in how do we do it more efficiently, more effectively, and better in certain circumstances. But that institutional knowledge needs to be captured. And there are great ways to go about that in terms of documenting the number of processes that we have. We have wonderful procedure libraries in certain departments because you have to. Department of Education says you have to be able to do these certain things, but not everybody has that luxury. So if we are able to apply some of that same framework to other areas that may not have such a structured environment, we'll be able to build those out rather quickly. But we want to make sure that not only are we documenting this task, we want to reduce our time on task. We want to make sure we're getting things done more promptly because if we are able to cut hours out of our day, that's dollars saved because we can redeploy those people to do other things on campus and have a greater impact. Dr. Johnson, anything you would add about academic affairs and our processes?
Yeah, just a couple of things around the processes. I think that so how are we building process? I've done a couple of hiring. Also,
Thank you. And then opportunity 3, our place. And so revitalizing and implementing a master facilities plan to modernize and create an inspiring campus environment. And so, bring in Jeremy Acton, our director of facilities with this one. We do a pretty good job of keeping track of the projects that we're conducting on campus. We have a deferred maintenance list that's got over $60 million of work on it. We go through it every year. What are we checking off? What are we adding on to it? We want to make that a little bit more user-friendly than a spreadsheet, right? But we have all the data. It's just how do we work to compile it in a more user-friendly way. As I mentioned this morning, our big hang up to do it properly, it takes a significant capital allocation, right? And so we'll want to make sure that we balance this for what we can do in-house versus what we can do with third parties to get us through it. But we just this past year, when the Hooley Center came on, we implemented a new platform that helps us keep track of all the activities that we have on campus from a physical plan perspective. So as new roofs and all these things have to happen, then a master plan is going to go through and assess your environment. We've already got a lot of this done. We could say, oh, this was done in these years. And so it'll help us build out this cycle, this rotation, a calendar, if you will, to know when we have to start addressing certain needs and issues on our campus. And so again, a lot of this is already underway. Again, tying back to the perception survey, it'll all be rolled into that. And again, we have other ways to collect that information. It's just a matter of what's going to be the best tool for Missouri Western. But we've got a lot of avenues to move forward. So that is it, Dr. Kennedy.
Daniel, again, I just feel it important to point out that Cabinet has been working for a while, so you're going to hear that we've anticipated this work. We've started some things, so that is part of the conversation. So let's move along to priority number 3, cultivate meaningful regional collaborations. And this, I would have to say, this is something that we're already doing pretty well, working with business and industry to create the Holney Center, working with Mosaic to create an in-demand respiratory therapy program, offering the innovative Nursing Scholars of Promise. There was our first class of Nursing Scholars of Promise, all of those recipients with Mosaic, and then also the recent partnerships with the St. Joseph School District, the Catholic Academy on direct admission. But it's collaborations like those that will drive new revenue sources and new pathways for education, which is exactly what we're looking for. And those are so critical to help us achieve our financial stability, fuel our innovation, and expand our educational mission. Before we get into the next opportunity, Carter, do you want to just, Andy and athletics are working on a strategic plan as well. So I've asked him just to give a little bit of an insight to what he's doing and where he might be in that process.
Yes, governors, what I would say is that as we're working on completing our strategic plan that will neatly kind of dovetail into especially this one section, but you'll be able to see where it affects and has an impact on almost the entire section. Athletics is a lot of things. Among that, we are a marketing tool for the university. We are a face of the university. We're a branding ambassador for the university. We create excitement. We're a community connector. And all those things into one give the university the opportunity to use the athletic department to help facilitate a lot of these relationships that happen the second on campus, but also the second you step foot off campus, because we're so visible and we're so seen. So we're excited about being a part of the process and feel like that if we, that front porch philosophy moving forward will really help the university get to these goals. So
Thank you,
all right.
Andy. Okay, so let's take a look rather at priority 3 dashboard, and I'm going to ask Jay and Mark if they would to come up and talk about the opportunities here.
Okay, so maybe go to the next slide.
Yep.
There we go. All right, so executing the role of a public regional university by aligning academic programs and student experiences with regional workforce needs. So as it became apparent that this was going to be a pretty big priority, we as has been said, we kind of already started on this a little bit. I mentioned workforce. I mentioned a number of things that's happening there with building partnerships with just a number of companies out there that perhaps we didn't have before, or companies out there we're partnering with in a different way. So we can't alienate who we're already with. We have to figure out new ways to serve them and bring new things to them. But we're also one of the things there is the academic program reviews. The university has an academic program review process. One of the things I brought to the table as a provost is quite a bit of experience in this as well. So we are looking at the process. I've talked to Dr. Baker, he's the faculty member here who has overseen this for the last few years. And we're looking at different things we might be able to do. What are some things that can tell us about new programs, new directions? When do we need to reconsider like a rebuild, some things like that to align the programs with the workforce needs a little bit differently. The partnerships that we've been building have been kind of in process already with like we had an advisory board the other day. We had the workforce, the Holney Center board, all those other areas. So now as we align the programming through looking at the program reviews and these other pieces, we have to determine what it is exactly that our programs are missing or they need to be added, what resources, what are we asking for, basically those types of things. Also, we've been building partnerships with perhaps providers where we might be short in some of the areas. What are some regional needs? We don't want someone to go somewhere else. So how are we bringing in resources that might be good stopgaps until we're able to get something full-time here? So that's pretty much what we're doing with opportunity 1. Mark.
Okay.
Well, thank you, governors. With opportunity two, the president has mentioned that the vice presidents have been working on forward on some of these quite a bit. Probably no single opportunity on the entire strategic plan could have been telegraphed more early than this one, because at least at one point in every meeting on campus, somebody turns to me and says, and you can fundraise for that, right? So we're prepared. We're prepared. Earlier, Daniel alluded to the importance of identifying and exploiting opportunities to reduce our effective discount rate in order for the university to enjoy more robust institutional financial health. To achieve that goal, it's necessary to expand the resources we attract from sources other than tuition and fees. Furthermore, diversifying that pool of sources can help protect us from shocks that might otherwise impact a whole series of sources that are in one fashion or another linked, just like diversifying your portfolio in the market. Private philanthropy is the single largest input to non-tuition and fee revenues. So I'm going to talk primarily about that first, but don't think for a moment I've forgotten the other parts of it, because I'm going to talk about that with our big finish on my piece. As we prepare to enter the strategic plan, as the president said, we have made some improvements already that I think we can build upon to try to generate good results. We're benefiting in part from an uptick in positive alumni and community engagement and the level of positivity about the university. And I thank all my colleagues, and especially Andy Otto, for that lift that provides to our fundraising efforts. Second, we've enjoyed some recent giving performance and momentum. We're coming off back-to-back consecutive top years in philanthropy in 5 or 6 different important dimensions. The foundation has been more strategically involved in supporting the university. Over the last 2 years alone, the foundation's contributed over $1.5 million of its own funds to be applied very strategically. Some of that money went to pre-plan and develop the idea behind the Holdney Center that, as we know, eventually attracted $20 million, 7 of which is for operations and scholarships. The other thing we invested in last year was hundreds of thousands of dollars of foundation support to accelerate the use of new technologies, especially for marketing and recruiting and retention. So the foundation's got a lot more focused in the way it supports the university. And then the fourth piece that we can build upon is in the area of philanthropy and advancement in the foundation, there's already a longstanding culture of performance tracking. So this is not alien to us. I'm going to skip over a couple things just in the interests of time. So, for example, in the culture of performance in FY25, the Foundation and the Division of Advancement introduced its quarterly philanthropy report. That's a 14-page deep dive into all of the trends and metrics and cost to benefit ratios on all of our fundraising efforts that our foundation staff go through meticulously each time. As we look ahead, there are a variety of strategies that we're going to employ to elevate our fundraising outcomes, and I will come back to some other things in just a minute. The first is expanding, focusing, and increasing the tempo of donor engagement activities and marketing communications. This includes the impact of donor recognition, crafting and deploying new, more high-impact narratives, and improving annual giving outreach. Second, and you heard a little bit about this morning in my report, increasing the number of opportunities for prospective donors to participate in volunteer advisory capacities and engaging more donors from outside of our immediate region where there's some donor fatigue, we know. Some examples of this are the foundation board itself. In the past 2 years, the foundation board has welcomed 10 new members. While some of them hail from our immediate region, there's one from Kansas, one from Minnesota, 2 from Nebraska, 1 from New York, 1 from, and 2, from Texas. And already this first quarter, that foundation board has already contributed $275,000 in new gifts, and that number will grow as the year progresses. We also mentioned this morning the Craig School National Executive Advisory Committee. That group brings together members from St. Joe, KC, St. Louis, Kentucky, and Dallas. The members on that group have already contributed $4.2 million to the university, and they are all still engaged, and more can be expected from them. We talked about how the alumni board has begun to elevate donors to the university. And lastly, we have the longstanding ambassadors program, which is generating more money than ever. The Arts Society that we'll do a little reboot of here pretty soon. And with Dean Joanne Brewer's help, we'll be launching a College of Science and Health Advancement Council this winter. We also talked briefly about the overall regional strategy, focusing on Dallas and Omaha. Last two big strategies we'll use for fundraising during this phase of the strategic plan. One will be to elevate our pursuit of deferred gifts. While those are very long-term inputs, they could potentially support transformational dollar amounts down the road. And the last I've mentioned in some previous reports, we're launching a much more structured, centralized, and integrated corporate and foundation relations effort. This is going to allow us to amp up our foundation grant seeking and amp up our corporate relations outputs. As we move forward, I'll serve as the process owner for this particular opportunity in priority 3. Division of Advancement in the foundation will oversee the metrics for fundraising. But as I mentioned earlier, philanthropy is not the only source of non-tuition and fee revenues. In fact, I've already begun the process of coming up with a comprehensive catalog of all of the inputs I can find. And I've only begun to kind of tap colleagues around the campus to figure that out, but I've already got 37 individual distinct inputs identified that fall into 9 broad categories. Some of those non-tuition and fee revenues are still somewhat linked to enrollment, like the auxiliaries for housing and meal plans, but others are not linked in any way whatsoever. I'll work with my colleagues across campus to validate the ones I've identified, identify more, benchmark those numbers, set goals, and identify whether there is a meaningful plan to move that we could create to move an individual input forward. Some of these, just to kind of to give you some context, some of these inputs, it's probably not worth our effort to put a big strategic plan in place to move the amount we get for reserved parking spaces on campus. We could probably put our nose to the grindstone and move that by a few $100s each year, but that's not going to change the budget. Bigger inputs might come from workforce training revenues, public-private partnerships, creative leases, indirect cost capture, grant increase, et cetera, et cetera. As I said, 37 so far that we've identified. And after I've benchmarked those and begun to work with my colleagues to identify whether there's a plan we could move forward, probably the cherry on the top of all that is then beginning to look for new opportunities. Some have been thrown out earlier in the meeting today. I know the governors have been percolating some ideas. Others in the community may be able to add other ideas as well. And each one of those we'll take in, we'll assess, we'll look at what the net output would be and evaluate whether or not we want to add those to the mix. That's the way we're going to move forward with that piece of the priority. And I can take any questions if there are any.
I would just add, if new opportunities come up for revenue, let's not dismiss them. Let's validate them, see how real they are, and they could bring in significant revenue.
I agree completely. I think a little assessment strategy of, are there net inputs we have to put in? Are there any unintended consequences? But also, what's the potential capture? And I think in general, we're going to want to also be mindful of whether or not that new piece might generate UBIT. But it's just a matter of doing any kind of business assessment. Many cases, you're going to come out ahead. I'll give for instance, it's more of a foundation thing, but at another foundation I worked, unlike here, where we get very few, if ever, land gifts. Farmers here hold their territory sacred. They don't tend to give it to the university. At another institution, we received many land gifts, and most of them were, as you might expect, terrible. They were all but unsellable. But our approach was, rather than struggling with it and holding on to this terrible piece of land for 3 years trying to get top dollar for it, if you get it in April, sell it by May for whatever you can get for it. And you know what? It's more than you had before. We'll come at it like that. If there's revenue that we can pick up, even if it's a small amount, if it doesn't place too big a burden We do have to be mindful of it. On the personnel to execute it, then we should give it a try. So I look forward to intaking lots of new ideas.
I appreciate that with Mark because it is such a balance, right? But I think we have made the commitment to look at whatever comes our way, to look at it, to evaluate it. And if it's a good positive, we can get something out of it to move forward. And if not, we'll move on to the next one.
Yeah,
So-
at least prioritize it
Yes.
if it falls down the list.
Might be
Mhm.
healthy value. Campus is sort of.
Uh-huh.
Would be helpful. Finance.
Well, and I think it's a great piece of input. That's why we really take such pride in these various advisory groups. But even beyond the advisory groups, there are already some people I have in mind that I've talked to before that even if it's a little bit of an oddball idea, they were able to give us 20, 30 minutes of their time for free and say, yeah, you're right, that one's not going to work. But you never know. Great
Thank you,
point.
Mark.
Thank you.
Okay, and for the last opportunity, we're going to bring Jerry Pickman, who is our Senior Philanthropy Officer, but also our Government Relations Officer. He works with myself and Tama. He's going to talk about the Mo West Regional Advocacy Coalition concept. This is opportunity 3.
Awesome. Good afternoon, governors. I think it's been 6.5 years since I stood behind the podium to talk to the board. And that was 2 reasons. I left and came back, but the other, I think the previous board members voted to ban me from microphones. So luckily there was a sunset on that in about 10 minutes ago. So anyway, so yeah, I'm grateful for the opportunity and excited actually to share information about the concept of a Mo West Regional Advocacy Coalition. The purpose of the coalition is to unite and mobilize Missouri Western's leaders, community partners, business and civic leaders, alumni and students, leveraging their collective influence to drive the university's legislative priorities forward. We know that's a heavy lift. We know that gaining support for our legislative priorities, especially where it involves increased funding, will be challenging, but we remain committed to that effort in advancing the university's priorities. So what will the coalition do? We hope the coalition will do 4 things, actually. 1, ensure decision makers understand what we need, and just as importantly, why we need it, why it's important to us and to the region. 2, to keep all messaging consistent, clear, and compelling. 3, to coordinate outreach activities, events, and media to champion our priorities. 4, to share stories that demonstrate Mo West's impact as a regional public university. The coalition will be structured as a 4-tiered network. There are 4 tiers: leadership advocates, strategic advocates, organizational advocates, and grassroots advocates. So let's talk a little bit about our tier 1 advocates. They are our leadership advocates, comprised of 2 key groups. You, our board leadership team members, consisting of a board of governors ad hoc advocacy committee, and university administrative leaders, primarily consisting of President Kennedy, Tama Wagner, and myself. The purpose of the tier 1 advocates is to set strategy, align messaging, and directly engage top officials, influencers, and decision makers. Very happy that Wyatt is still with us from Senator Luchtemeyer's office. We got to know each other when he worked for Governor Parson, but it's great that you've stayed around to listen to this presentation, to our strategic plan, and just knowing that we're going to be in contact quite a bit and working very closely with you and Senator Luchtemeier. Tier 2 are our strategic advocates. Members in this tier include influential civic and business leaders. Their purpose is to build connections and generate awareness of Mo West priorities, serving as a bridge to the broader community. Tier 3 are our organizational advocates. Membership in this tier include the Missouri Western State University Foundation Board of Directors, as well as the Missouri Western State University Alumni Association Board of Directors, some key donors, and some mid-level influencers. Their purpose is to coordinate communication and mobilize within their networks, ensuring that donors, alumni, and mid-level influencers actively support our priorities. And finally, in tier 4 are grassroots advocates. And membership in this tier, really, it consists of our student government association representatives. Their purpose is to share their student perspective, their experiences, and to advocate with legislators to highlight West's impact. So they kind of bring the heart to the message, if you will. So we start with our leadership advocates who set strategy, followed by our strategic advocates who help spread the word, and then our organizational advocates who mobilize donors and alumni, and finally our grassroots advocates, our students who bring real stories to life. So in summary, the coalition is really about turning advocacy into a unified strategic effort. I think that in combination with Dr. Kennedy last year and Tama Wagner, that was my first time really to be in Jeff City and to do much work there, including some of the work we did locally and nationally as well. And we saw a lot of good things happening. We talked to a lot of people. We presented a lot of things. I'll tell you one thing that we don't have a better advocate in anyone other than Dr. Kennedy. Her work on with Kofi and leadership with Kofi, the coordinating board. She's a fighter. She goes to Jeff City and she presents our needs, and she's passionate about it, and she gets listened to. So I thank Dr. Kennedy for that and for her work. But you know, we realize that we need to do more. We can do more. We already have an infrastructure in the community with the St. Joseph Community Alliance, the Chamber's Government Relations Committee, the St. Joseph Legislative Partnership, and also key events such as Great Northwest Days at the Capitol and at the annual DC Fly-In, 2 events that we can definitely optimize. In addition, as members or partners with the Community Alliance, we communicate regularly with our 2 lobbyists in Jefferson City. They are our ears and boots on the ground there, if you will. We will be asking them to increase their level of strategic engagement this year as well. With that, that's the conclusion of my formal presentation. Unless you have any questions, I'll turn it back over to President Kennedy.
Do you have a slide on the metrics?
Oh, we just passed
There-
this back.
Yes, you know, that three metrics in particular that we'll look at, Governor Grimwood. One obviously is an increase in legislative support. That's pretty measurable. We'll know whether or not those come to fruition. But also we want to look at measuring engagement growth. How many advocates are we bringing into the fold and working on our behalf? And then finally tracking advocacy activity. There are numerous opportunities for our advocates to be involved. Some of those activities are going to be just showing up and being there. There's a legislative partnership and government official social is coming up on November 19th. We hope that members will show up there and to be able to speak to our legislators face to face. But there are a lot of things that we can do. That includes letter writing, a lot of face-to-face communication and advocacy, leveraging those events like Great Northwest Days at the Capitol, but making sure that we're getting our priorities out there, that they're heard, but again, not just of what we need, but why it's needed.
Gary, you mentioned our lobbyists. Do we have lobbyists that just lobby for Missouri? I mean, are we part of a group that?
Yes.
Could you explain how?
Yes, we're part of a 6-member group with the Community Alliance. And Dr. Kennedy, you can help me out here a little bit, just.
Yeah, so it's the St. Joseph Legislative Partnership, and it's Chamber, Community Alliance, 139th, School District, County, City, us.
Mosaic.
And well, they're part of Community Alliance, but they're not technically part of the legislative process because they have their own lobbyists, but they do participate in that. So we have that group. And maybe where you were going, Governor Grimwood, so we've been working on developing our priorities since July. And we will have for this group, for the board, 1-page sheets that list everything out, that have all the details. So you have the talking points that you need. Part of our participation in the St. Joseph and with the chamber is to present as a group what our priorities are. And then as Jerry mentioned, on the 19th, we will be hosting our state elected officials and delegation here and going over those. I have individual meetings set up with a couple different folks. Governors might want to mark their calendar on November 19th at 5 o'clock at the Benton Club. There is a social that will be as part of this legislative partnership. So if you're able to go, let me know. I'll make sure everybody gets you to the right room. But that's part of it. To Jerry's point, I've already been working through Kofi with the coordinating board, in terms of getting requests in to put forward from the coordinating board to the governor for his budget. So even though the session doesn't start till January, we're well underway with our priorities and getting those established. So, and I would say too, and this is to Jerry and to Tammy, you know, the reception that we have received by folks in the community, I talked about this yesterday at the foundation board meeting. Folks are very eager to help us. I'm not sure how many of you around the table might have seen, the chamber did a recent survey of members, and 75% of the members supported increased funding for Missouri Western, which is a very good statistic for our chamber members. So that was really good to hear. So we understand it is a tough budget year. I know the language that we're hearing, but we have good arguments and good conversations brewing to really take care of Missouri Western.
Betsy gonna send us.
We can do that, sure. Yeah, we can send you some calendar invites that might help.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, thank you, Jerry. Okay, so the last priority, and this is really, like I mentioned, our long-term aspirational priority, and it's to improve the educational attainment in our region. And this hits home simply because we have so much to accomplish. I'm going to repeat some of the things I've talked to governors before, but it's important. So if you recall, I've talked to you about the Georgetown University report, The Future of Good Jobs, Projections through 2031. And we know that educational attainment is going to become increasingly important year after year after year. And here's why. Because by 2031, 66% of all of the good jobs will require a bachelor's degree. And by a good job, we're talking about one for adults 25 to 44 that has a starting salary of $44,000 and a median of $73,000. And for working adults 45 to 64, it's a starting salary of $55,000 and a median of $91,000. Currently, in Buchanan County, only 22% of the residents have a bachelor's degree, and only 16% of the residents of the city of St. Joseph have a bachelor's degree. And just so you have some comparison, in Missouri, that's 32%, and in the United States, that's 35%, right? And I don't know how many of you governors have seen the recent labor basin study report released by the chamber. I'd be happy to share that with governors if you'd like to take a look. But there are some even more startling statistics related to St. Joseph. First of all, our labor participation rate for the city is at 59%. Unemployment in the 22 to 24 year age group is 13.1%. That is staggering, right? And the poverty rate is 14.6%. In fact, and that's for 2024, for working aged adults, and I'm talking that 18 to 64 group, the poverty rate is 16%. And in the last 5 years, St. Joseph has lost 823 jobs. So when we think about improving educational attainment, the question and the focus is not really how do we get more jobs here, but what kind of jobs do we get? And for those good jobs, we're going to need educated people, beginning in preschool and continuing through on. So we're going to talk about priority number 4. And as we look at this and we think about this dashboard, right? Or we think about what this looks like. Got 2 things going here. Whoops, sorry. You're not supposed to see that yet. So 4, improving educational attainment, right? I'm not going to ask Jay and Andy to come back up. We feel like we've been on a little bit of up and downs. You can chime in anytime you like. But to establish this baseline, we're going to look at our numbers this year and work to improve off of those in the future. We believe that some of the programs we have in place, early college, is going to have an impact. Our enhanced recruitment efforts, our initiatives to attract more returning students, non-traditional students, and workforce credential seekers. I am particularly interested in the number of returning students who have been here and stopped out. Who are they? Why are they here? And how do we get more of them? When you have a community that has about 22 to 23% of the adults have some college, let's help them finish that. Let's get them to that credential. So those kinds of things.
And we know, or our region, that attainment is so critical. It's going to give improved career opportunities, higher earning potentials, and financial stability. And the bottom line is it contributes to a more prosperous and healthy society. It drives economic growth and promotes the civic good. So again, as I started out, we have work to do, but it is good work and it is necessary work. And with that, those are the highlights of the plan, questions and approval. Now, if you're wondering why Tama isn't here with us today, and why y'all had to pitch in and do the work of presenting for her committee, it's because she's conveniently on vacation. She might still be in Luxor, Egypt, or perhaps she is still boating down the Nile. But she did tell me she sends her best regards. So I said, you have to give me a couple pictures to put in here. And so that is where she was. So again, if there are questions, we can take that. And if there are none, I would request a motion to approve the plan.
I'm excited to see the dashboard that you create, that we can track it. It's well worth the time and effort. It's hard to do, but and I think that just lets everybody know, are we on track or off track? And then if we're off track, what are our next action plans? Having those great conversations early. So appreciate the work that you're going to do. Look forward to seeing it.
Dr. Kennedy, thanks for the leadership of putting this team together, and committee members, the steering committee. Personally, thank you for putting this together. Looks great. Let's move forward, and we're almost at the finish line.
I appreciate the receptiveness that was from this board. I want to give the credit to Governor Albers, but someone had said that was hoping with the strategic plan that would be the lens that we could look through decisions that we make as a board going forward. And the committee has made a conscious effort of emphasizing that approach that gives us that lens to be working towards a common goal with that. So I very much appreciate that responsiveness that the committee took from this.
Well, and I just want to say I appreciate the cabinet and the team and everyone who's working on this. 4 years ago, we would not have been able to develop a dashboard. We just wouldn't have had that. And so we have that ability now. We have the focus on data, numbers, looking at this, being able to project, being able to plan, being able to move forward. So we are excited to get this going. And I'm looking forward to those Monday mornings where I can click on that and say, where are we? What are we doing? All right. So
I would also encourage the team. There's a lot of community engagement. And, we all have different relationships. So if you're challenged, don't be afraid to raise your hand and say, hey, we need to crack this. Can anybody help? So we're here to do that.
thank you.
Yeah. And talk about I don't think the same thing to a better plan. And an awful lot of this plan is on revenue. We gotta really keep up the marketing, really gotta hire people at good rates. We gotta create the revenue. That is to increase the enrollment. And it's also, I encourage us to look at talking about new programs. I know the lens, the universities and other tutors use lots of time. I'll tell you, my wife's a graduate too. She's a school counselor. She often says she's in the healthcare profession. That I guess, just by deduction, I'm in the hurting profession. but what I'm saying is, if you start a new program, bringing 50 students, okay, that's a great thing. But we don't want to bring in a program that has 50 students that breaks even. Okay, we want to bring in a program that brings in 50 students and creates additional revenue. That's really important because this plan depends on that additional revenue to be successful, right? So it's just that it's a different way of looking at things. I looked at things through a businessman's eyes because that's the way I've done, for 40 years. But that's the way all schools, I'm serious, not just Missouri Western, any university, state of Missouri, in the country, has to start looking at things through this lens to survive in what's coming over the next 5 or 10 years.
You absolutely couldn't be more right. And I think it's also not only what can we bring in, but what can we work to develop those partnerships so they're bringing their revenue to us.
Exactly. That's
Right.
the whole point. Bringing students, maybe, I mean, bring an extra with, so that we can do these great things.
Yes.
And that was my point on the nursing. But if we can accept 140 today and we're number one. Part of the 5-year strategic plan to make that 280 in 2 years, 500 in 5, right? Because we're already number one. Take advantage of the momentum.
Thank you, guys.
I would make a motion.
Hold on just a moment. I do want to give Governor Michalski an opportunity, who has been patiently listening to all of this and in a sunnier place than we are. So I want to at least give you the opportunity if you'd like to add anything.
I think that the strategic plan is on the right track. I think Scott hit it best. You know, creating that dashboard is very hard work, but it will be a useful tool to drive decisions and make quick changes when we see it off.
Well said. Thank you. And thank you to Dr. Kennedy for the vision with this all-star team. I mean, thanks, Mark, Andy, Daniel, Jay, Andy, other Andy again, Jerry, Tama, countless others with that. Thank you to everyone with that. And now I will pivot to you, Governor Danford, that if there are no other questions or comments on this, I would ask for a motion to approve the MoWest 2026 through 2030 strategic plan as presented.
So moved.
Second. Is there any discussion? Going to ask the board secretary to do a roll call vote on this motion.
Yes.
Senator Danford,
Yes.
Senator Shepherd,
Yes.
Senator Michalski,
Yes.
Senator Wood,
Yes.
Yes. Hearing the roll call vote being unanimous, the motion carries. Is there any old business that for the board to entertain? One item that I do have is we do need a motion to ratify the results of the poll vote. It was taken on September 29th, 2025 to approve RFP 26-007, which was the Blum Union boiler replacement. The motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Any new business before the board? Hey, the next board meeting will be on Thursday, February 26th, 2026 at this same spot at 1:30.
It's just 26. It's just like, wow, I can't believe it'll be that time already. Sorry.
All right. Any other comments, questions from the board? There being no other comments, a vote will now be taken to close the meeting pursuant to Missouri Revised Statute 610.021, sections 1, 2, 3, 13, 14, and 24. Do I have a motion to close the meeting? Second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? The motion carries, and after a 5-minute break, we will go into closed session. Thank you, everyone, for being here.
Thank you, everybody.